Every year in the offseason, I like to try and predict how the Sharks are going to do the next season. What I do is I go player by player on offense, on defense, and then the goalies. Try to predict their point totals for each player, and then finally do a team prediction. How many points I think they're going to get, wins and losses, goal differential, all that. And that's what I want to do with us today is I want to go over my 2026-2027 Shark season predictions in July. Now, the reason I preface that with in July is because a lot's probably going to happen between now and the start of the season in October. I actually do two season predictions for the Sharks usually. I do one in July, and then I do one at the end of the preseason. That'll probably be late September this year. And there's a few question marks right now in the roster. We don't quite know the role that Ty Dellandrea, Barclay Goodrow are going to play. We're going to get into that in a minute. But at least as of right now, this is going to be my predictions for the Sharks next year. Do I think they're going to make the playoffs or not? What do I think is going to happen? And we're going to get into that right now, starting with the forward core. And here it is. So at the top, of course, first thing I should say is that this is an 84-game schedule next year instead of 82 games. They upped it by 2 games. Goes back to how it was in the early 90s, whether you like that or not. But that's what we got. So I'm upping everyone's point totals by just a little bit compared to what I would have predicted last year. And here we go. Macklin Celebrini, I have him getting 117 points in 84 games. That's very similar to what he got this year. He was 115 points in 82 games this year. I'm saying he gets 2 more points, 2 more games next year. It's a little hard to predict what Macklin's going to do, if he's going to have a bit of a slump or if he's just going to keep growing. It's pretty hard for me to imagine he's going to take another huge step forward in the points totals after 115 points last year. That's a little far-fetched in my mind. A lot of people also like to talk about his on-ice shooting percentage, which is like historically high. But to be fair, it's Macklin Celebrini. If anyone's going to have a really high on-ice shooting percentage, it would be Macklin. And I don't really see him taking a step back, I'll be honest. I think line mates like Smith and Chernyshov are going to complement him really nicely for the full season. I think last year wasn't a fluke at all, and that could just be teal-tinted glasses, of course, but Celebrini is an amazing player, and I'm not going to be so bold as to predict, he's going to go from 115 to 135 points this year. It's probably a bit of a stretch for a 20-year-old, but I think he's going to stay right about where he was. 100-something teens points sounds about right to me. 45-ish goals, 75-ish assists, something like that. And he'll be one of the best players in the league again. You'll probably get MVP votes again. Next up, his line mate, Will Smith. I think Will Smith is going to turn into a roughly point-per-game player next year. I got him at 79 points in 82 games. Will Smith is a really good complementary player. He plays really well with Macklin because he's just such a creative playmaker. You could argue he's even more creative of a playmaker than Celebrini is. He's just so dynamic. He's made some of the best passes I've ever seen in my life, and he's doing that as like a 19 or 20-year-old. And I think he's just going to keep growing with Macklin. Honestly, I thought there was a chance he was going to be a little sketchy last year and maybe take a bit of a step back. I think I predicted if anyone on the Sharks was going to have a sophomore slump last year, it was going to be him, just because he's such a creative player, but sometimes the creativity runs out a little bit in year 2, and he might start to struggle a bit as the league adapts to him, but that was not the case. He had a fantastic year last year, put up first-line production. And I think with him growing and Macklin growing, I think he's going to hit that roughly point-per-game mark, and I think probably Will Smith's ceiling is probably like a 90 to 95 point player if everything hits in his prime, and I think he's probably not quite there quite yet, but if he keeps playing with Celebrini, keeps playing as well as he has, I think he'll grow into that type of player. Next up on the first line, I've got Igor Chernyshov. This is another guy that's a little bit hard to predict because he already looked fantastic last year, but also his AHL numbers weren't amazing last year, and I don't know how much of his production was just because he played with Macklin, because Macklin could probably turn Ty Dellandrea into a 20-goal scorer. So Igor Chernyshov, kind of hard to say how real his 19 points in 28 games was. But again, this is one where you can kind of just do the eye test and watch him play. And he's just a perfect complement for a line of Celebrini and Smith. He's so good at retrieving the puck, and he's so good at being a big body who skates, a very physical forward. He's a really impressive player to me, and that's why I have him, once again, first-line production. I think with Celebrini and Smith passing to him, there's no reason he can't hit the 30-goal mark, even as a 20-year-old player. I think it's very impressive if he's able to pull that off, but Chernyshov has already been really impressive, and I see him having first-line production for the Sharks next year. Is it going to be on the level of Smith and Celebrini? Probably not, but I like Chernyshov a lot. I think he has a ceiling of being a point per game player one day, and if he looks as good as he did last year, I think it's going to be a really successful season for Chernyshov. Next up, I got our number 2 center, Michael Misa. Misa looked pretty good last year, and I think as he continued to play, his point totals got better. He looked a little more comfortable. He wasn't being bodied off the puck quite as much. And he's going to have a big role on the Sharks next year. They're probably going to ask him to be the 2 center right away. And it's a tall order for a 19-year-old like Michael Misa, but he was a second overall pick. I like the way his game grew last year. I don't think he's going to be one of the best 2Cs in the league yet or anything, but he's going to have some pretty good line mates. I'm going to have him putting up something like 25 goals, 30 assists, 55 total points in 80 games for Michael Misa. On that second line, probably playing with Misa most of the season, we got Mason Marchment. I have him being just a really solid second line production, 52 points in 73 games. The thing with Marchment is that he often does miss 10 to 15 games per year due to injury. So I'm factoring that in for him, but he's like a bona fide 20 to 25 goal winger. I really like his game. I think he's going to complement the Sharks really well. I was questioning a little bit if his addition is going to create a bit of a logjam, and I think it still might, but he's going to be in the lineup every night. There's no question. Should be stapled to our second line, and I like the addition. Colin Graff, I have him getting 43 points in 83 games. Such a good player. I'm really happy that Greer made that signing out of college as an undrafted player. He's been so good. He's an amazing penalty killer. He's great off the puck. He's solid defensively, and he can chip in 15, 20 goals a year, get you like 40 to 50 points. I don't know if he's going to be on the second line, but I see him at least being, some sort of middle six player who can play on the power play, who plays a lot on the penalty kill, should get some heavy minutes for the Sharks next year. And yeah, I like him to pretty much match his production from last year. I think he's going to grow as a player, so that'll help him. But I think he's also probably not going to be playing with Celebrini much at all. So 43 points seems about right to me. Kiefer Sherwood, I have him getting 22 goals, 21 assists for 43 points, pardon me, not 42. Let's fix that right up. Tying Colin Graff. Kiefer Sherwood, it's another one where it's a little hard to say what I think he's going to do because he fit in pretty well with the Sharks last year. I don't think it was anything incredible. His production wasn't quite as good as it was in Vancouver or anything. But Sherwood's another one of those middle six players where it feels like the Sharks have like 8 or 9 middle six forwards right now. And Sherwood, I think, is going to get a lot of ice time next year just because of that physical game that he brings. And he has a really good shot. I think those are two things that maybe some of these other middle six guys are missing a little bit. But I like Sherwood quite a bit. I'm happy the Sharks have him. I know it's a pretty big contract and going for a while, but I think we're going to get a good 40 to 45 points out of him and then the really physical presence that he brings along with it. Alex Wennberg, there's got to be a bit of a regression after last year. There's no way he's going to put up 55 plus points again. I can't see that happening. I think he's going to be the bona fide 3 center this year as opposed to the 2C that he was for a large chunk of last season. And he did an admirable job as our 2C. He was actually a very solid 2C. I don't think it's wise to ask him to do that again and ask him to play 18, 19 minutes a night and be a big role on the power play or anything like that. But Wennberg's a really good player. I like him a lot. Everyone likes Alex Wennberg. He's a great player. He should be one of the best 3Cs in the league. I see him putting up about 40 points and probably playing every single game this year. Ivar Stenberg. So Stenberg, of course, the 18-year-old out of Sweden. We just drafted him number 2 overall this year. Stenberg, the consensus with Stenberg is he's probably the most NHL-ready prospect out of anybody that was drafted in this last draft. And as such, I see he's probably going to get some development days like Misa got last year and like Smith got a couple years ago. I don't know if he's going to play the full 84. But I see him really catching on, especially in the second half. He's probably going to play just about every game. He'll be probably somewhere in the middle 6. I don't see us putting him on the top line with Celebrini and Smith. I don't know if it's wise to ask 20 minutes a night out of an 18-year-old Ivar Stenberg. I mean, he's a good prospect, but he's not generational. He's not a Sidney Crosby type where we're going to be asking him to be a superstar right out of the gate. Stenberg, very well-rounded player. Again, very good at retrieving pucks. He'll probably play with Celebrini one day in the future. For his rookie season, I like him somewhere in the middle 6, maybe on the second line, getting a little more than half a point per game by the end of the year. He's an incredible prospect. He really is. And I think 39 points, 70 games. That sounds about right to me. Next up, we got Tyler Toffoli. I think his role is going to diminish a bit next year. His play obviously fell off a bit from last year compared to the year before. He was like a bona fide 30-goal scorer, and last year I don't think he even hit 20 goals. Next year, I'm guessing it's going to be a little bit more of a fall off just because the Sharks have a lot of middle six players right now, and I think of all of them, Toffoli is aging. Toffoli's production is already slowing down, and it makes sense that he's probably going to be the guy sometimes playing on the fourth line, sometimes playing on the third line. I don't think he's going to get huge minutes next year. He'll probably play on the power play, but again, I don't see him being a huge factor in the Sharks' offense, at least as much as he was a couple years ago. I have him at 32 points in 79 games. Adam Gaudette, he should be a staple for our fourth line. He's a really, really good player. Maybe not the most typical fourth liner in the sense that he's not like some insane penalty killing defensive merchant, but he's a very solid player. He's responsible. He's good for probably 15-ish goals per year. His role, again, might be a little more diminished next year just because we have so many forwards, but I have him for 22 goals, 76 games, something right around there. Very good fourth liner, excellent fourth liner. Very happy the Sharks have him. Finally, Zach Ostapchuk. I think he's going to be our last kind of regular player here. He should be our 4C. That's his role. Sharks kind of decided, like, he is our 4C. He's going to keep growing into it. Last year, the offense really wasn't there for him, but it doesn't necessarily need to be on your fourth line center. You don't need a guy who's putting up 10, 15 goals. That's great when he's able to chip in on the offense, but Ostapchuk does a lot of things well. I think he's going to take like a little bit of a step forward on his offense, and I think he's going to be playing with some pretty good wingers, so that'll help him, but I still probably see him being something like 15 points, maybe upside of like 20 if things hit and his line mates help him a lot, but he should be our 4C the whole year. 15 points, 81 games, something like that. Finally, we're going to have two guys on the outside kind of looking in, our 13th and 14th forwards. As it stands right now, these guys are probably just in the lineup mainly because of injury, but again, I stress things will change between now and the start of the year where it might not even make sense to have Goodrow and Dellandrea here. So we'll see what happens, but I have Goodrow playing a bit more than Dellandrea just because the coaches love Goodrow, let's be honest. He's played every single game that he could the last 2 seasons, so it's hard for me to see him being on the bench that much this upcoming year. And then Ty Dellandrea, I know we just signed him to a contract, but where does he fit in? I really don't see where he fits into this lineup. I personally see Goodrow going in instead of Dellandrea in a lot of these cases, but I have to imagine he's going to play a little bit at least. I don't know if we're going to end up trading him, if we're going to try to put him on waivers. I don't know what we'd end up doing here, but yeah, Goodrow and Dellandrea right now on the outside looking in as the 13th and 14th forwards unless we trade someone, unless we trade one of Goodrow or Dellandrea. Who knows what we're going to do, but that's how I see it right now. That's our forward core. To me, as it stands, this is probably a top 10 offense in the NHL. Probably somewhere around 8th or 9th in my mind. It's a pretty good core. Very deep. A fourth line of Toffoli, Gaudette, Ostapchuk, or Graf, Gaudette, Ostapchuk, or whoever, Gaudette and Ostapchuk. That's a stacked fourth line. I'm sorry. That's really, really good. Defensemen. So, the Sharks got 3 new defensemen this year. 3 shiny new toys in Darnell Nurse, Jacob Trouba, and Michael Kesselring. Here's how I see it looking right now, and this is assuming, of course, we don't sign or trade for anyone else before the start of the season. Darnell Nurse is probably going to play as our number 1 defenseman, which is really not ideal, but again, in the past few years, the Sharks have basically had like 5 bottom pairing defensemen and 1 middle pairing defenseman in Dmitry Orlov. And this year, the way I see it is the Sharks have like 4 or 5 middle pairing defensemen and maybe a couple bottom pairing defensemen, which is a lot better than it was. Still don't really have a bona fide top pairing guy, but that's okay. Darnell Nurse is probably the closest that we've got right now. He's probably going to be on the power play quite a bit. Might be our number 1 power play quarterback. Might have him in the second slot. Hard to say for sure right now, but I have him playing 83 games. He should get some pretty nice production. 9 goals, 28 assists, 37 points. He's not going to have an Evan Bouchard to compete with on the blue line. The Sharks don't have anyone like that on the blue line. I have him being our top points getter. He's going to have a lot of power play time. I think he's going to have a pretty productive season. We'll see how his game looks 2, 3, 4 years from now, but I think next year he'll be solid enough for us. Our second defenseman, I have that being Luca Cagnoni. Again, you know from my last video, I'm a big Luca Cagnoni fan. And the way I see it right now is we have a hole in our power play. We need another power play quarterback. as it stands right now, I think Luca Cagnoni would be the guy who's going to get a chance. And looking at the guys he might play with on the power play, I have to imagine Luca Cagnoni's production is going to be pretty good next year. It might be the sort of thing where he only ends up playing like 16, 17 minutes a night, but he plays on the power play every night. And because of that, his production looks pretty good. So I have him being a little bit under half a point per game. I got 32 points in 74 games for Luca Cagnoni. A lot of assists to Celebrini, Smith on the power play, guys like that, if he's a top pair guy. I really like Cagnoni. I see him taking a step next year, and I think those are going to be our power play guys, Nurse and Cagnoni. Next up, Sam Dickinson. He should be playing a full season next year. I don't think we're going to mess with him in the AHL or anything like that. I think he belongs. He's probably not going to be playing super, super heavy minutes, but I like him to take a bit of a step forward. He could get some power play time depending on how Cags and Nurse do. I have a feeling it's not just going to be those two guys on the power play and nobody else the whole season. So I got Sam Dickinson, 6 goals, 23 assists, 29 points. It's a pretty nice step up in production. Again, in his prime, we're probably looking at a guy, if he hits, we're probably looking at a guy who's like 45, 50 points a season. He's not there yet. He's still growing, but I like a step forward for Sam Dickinson next year. Next up, Jacob Trouba. Jacob Trouba was fantastic for the Ducks last year. He got, I think, 35 points on the blue line. Again, probably not going to be as big of a role for him on the Sharks just because, well, at least in terms of point production, because he's not going to get any power play time, and I think we have some offensively minded guys on the blue line next year anyway. I think Jacob Trouba is going to get heavy minutes. I think it's mostly going to be in a shutdown role, and I don't see him getting more than like 20 to 25 points for the Sharks next year. That being said, I think he might end up being our number one defenseman in terms of ice time, or maybe number 2 defenseman. Darnell Nurse is the other guy who could compete with him, but yeah, heavy role for Trouba, probably just not super high point production. Dmitry Orlov, our number 1 center from last year, I now have him 5th on the team in points. He was our power play quarterback next year. He was on the number 1 unit for the power play, and I don't see him being anywhere near the power play this year. He actually did an adequate job on the power play, for being honest, last year, but I see him taking a step back in production, 25 points, something like that, and he's probably like an 18 to 20 minute a night guy on the blue line. Reducing his role a little bit, I think that'll be good for a Dmitry Orlov who's getting older, who's in his mid-30s. We want him to just play a little bit less and give us really strong minutes when he does play. Finally, the last regular as it stands right now, I got Michael Kesselring. I got him getting 22 points in 72 games. That would be a bit of a rebound for Kesselring. Not quite as good as his Utah Mammoth days for sure, but a step forward from where he was last year. He's potentially a bottom pairing guy for the Sharks. You could ask him to maybe be a middle pairing guy and play closer to 20 minutes a night. He could play on the power play. He might end up getting some power play minutes at some point, but I like some sort of a rebound for Kesselring. Just get out of that situation in Buffalo. They have so many defensemen in Buffalo. At least they did before they traded Byram. But I think Kesselring will fit in well in the Sharks. I like the way. I think it'll work out pretty well. Finally, as our 7th defenseman right now, I see it being Eric Polkamp. There will probably be someone else who takes that role. I think Polkamp will get called up eventually, though. It's a little hard to say for sure what happens with Eric. I think he's probably going to be in the AHL for most of the year, get a late season call-up. So that's why I have him right now getting 14 games at the end of the year, and we'll see what he does with them. But I got a goal and 2 assists, 3 points in those 14 games. All right, goaltenders. These are the 3. This is pretty solidly going to be the 3. It's Askarov, it's Nedeljkovic, and it's Eric Comrie, the guy that we just got this offseason. So Askarov, this is a huge season for Askarov in my mind. His play last year, he had a fantastic month of November, but outside of that, if we're being honest, his play didn't really cut it. There were a lot of soft goals given up by Askarov, and also some massive, enormous saves made, which that's kind of the trade-off with Askarov right now, and that's why he's such a highly regarded prospect, is, yeah, he's letting in a decent amount of soft goals, but at the same time, if he's making these amazing saves, you hope that he keeps up the athleticism and the unique abilities that he has as a goaltender, and that he's able to work out the flaws. He works with the goalie coaches, he works with Ryan Miller, he works with the guys that the Sharks have, and hopefully those mistakes start to go away, and he turns into a Vezina caliber goaltender one day. As it stands right now, I see his numbers improving next year. I think last year was pretty rough for him, and I think it'll get better, but still probably not really like a starting goaltender caliber player from Yaroslav Askarov. I don't know what that phrase was I was trying to say there. I don't think he's good enough to be a starter at this point. I guess that's what I'm saying. I think I'm going to get an 893 save percentage from him, 326 goals against average. He should fairly evenly be splitting this next season with Nedeljkovic, I'd imagine. Something like a 50-50 split. Nedeljkovic, I see him just being steady Eddie like he was last year. He's not a Vezina caliber goalie. He's not anything amazing, but he is solid. He is dependable. I love Nedeljkovic. I think he's a really good player for the Sharks. I haven't put up a 900 save percentage, 311 goals against average. He's a good player. I like him a lot. And then Eric Comrie, he'll probably fill in at some point. Askarov or Nedeljkovic will get injured. That's just the nature of being a hockey player. They're probably not going to miss. It's not like they're not going to miss a single start all year. He's going to play the role that Laurent Brossoit played last year for the Sharks, so he'll just get some spot starts when needed, playing mostly in the AHL. But he's a solid goaltender. He has been a starter in the past. And yeah, he should get a few starts at some point. All right, so taking all that in, goaltending, defense, and the forwards, these are the final predictions I have for the Sharks, at least as of July 26th, 2026. Are the Sharks a playoff team? I have them going 43, 32, and 9. I have them finishing with 95 points, third place in the Pacific. And I have them just barely having a positive goal differential. Not by much, but 279 goals for, which is really, really good. 276 goals against, which ain't great. And I do have them making the playoffs as the third seed in the Pacific. Probably Vegas number 1, Edmonton number 2. I think the Sharks could actually beat out the Ducks for the number 3 seed next year. And again, hopefully not teal-tinted glasses, but they upgraded on the blue line. These aren't players that are going to be, 2-3 years from now still killing it for the Sharks. But I think next year they're going to be pretty solid. I think Celebrini and Smith are going to keep killing it. I think all the new players that we got on offense, Marchment, Sherwood for a full season, are going to help quite a bit. We're going to have a pretty good offense. The Sharks are going to score a lot of goals. They're also going to let in a lot of goals, but I don't think it's going to be quite as embarrassing as last year. I think we let in 290-something goals last year. I see it getting a bit better with Askarov being a little more dependable and then just a D-core that isn't filled with bottom pairing defensemen, more filled with middle pairing defensemen, which we'll take that. So that's what I see for the Sharks right now. One more time, I can't stress this enough, things will probably change between now and the start of the season, late September. I plan to do another one of these then, kind of give my final predictions for the Sharks season, but this is how I see it right now. I see them barely being a playoff team, right on the cusp. It could go either way. I am, as of right now, I would say about 55% sure the Sharks will make the playoffs, and let's go with that. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll be back with more soon, but these are my predictions for July, and we'll talk again soon.